At first glance, she was just another passenger on Flight 472. A kid, maybe 12 or 13, sitting quietly in seat 12F by the window, headphones in, eyes on the clouds. Nobody knew her name. Nobody knew her story. But before this plane would even land, every pilot in the airspace, including 2 F-22 Raptors, would stand at attention because of her. Sound of intercom, soft turbulence. Narrator: the flight had taken off from Seattle, headed toward Washington, D.C. routine flight. Businessmen reading reports, mothers calming their babies. And in seat 12F, a small girl with a notebook on her lap, scribbling something with intense focus. The flight attendant, Sarah, passed by and smiled. "You doing homework, sweetheart?" she asked. The girl looked up, her eyes calm, disciplined. Far older than her age, she smiled faintly. "Something like that," she said. Soft piano fades. Low suspense tone begins. Narrator: hours passed and then, halfway through the flight, something strange happened. The captain's voice came on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor technical issue. Please remain seated." But the voice sounded off, strained, nervous. The attendants whispered among themselves. An electrical fault? No, the instruments were fine. The radios, however, started crackling with interference. Radio static sound effect. Then came a faint voice through the cockpit radio. "Flight 472, identify yourself. You've entered restricted airspace. Repeat, identify immediately," the captain replied, confused. "This is commercial flight 472 from Seattle to Washington. We're cleared en route," the voice came back. "Negative. 472. You've deviated 7 miles north. You are entering presidential airspace. 2 F-22 Raptors are now intercepting." Narrator: suspense rising. The passengers had no idea what was happening, but in seat 12F, the little girl suddenly looked up. Her face turned serious, calm, focused, like a switch flipped inside her. She reached down into her backpack and took out something unexpected. A small, black case, the kind that looked military. Sarah, the flight attendant, saw it and froze. "What's that, sweetheart?" The girl looked at her and for the first time spoke in a tone that didn't sound like a child's. "Ma'am, I need you to tell the captain to open his emergency frequency, channel 121.5. Sarah blinked. "What?" The girl said it again firmly. 21.5, right now. Cinematic strings rising. Narrator: confused but sensing urgency, Sarah rushed to the cockpit. Inside, both pilots were tense, watching 2 dots appear on their radar screen. "Closing fast, F-22's, Captain," Sarah stammered. "There's a kid in 12F. She says to switch to frequency 121.5. The captain frowned. How would she know that? But when the radio crackled again, "Flight 472, you are entering restricted airspace. Identify or be engaged." The captain decided to take a chance. He switched. Radio static clears. And then they all heard it. A young but commanding voice come through the cockpit's secondary radio. "Raptor 1, this is Shadowcall. Authentication Echo Bravo 27. The F-22 pilots paused. "Repeat." "Who is this?" "This is Shadowcall. I'm on board civilian flight 472, cease intercept. Verify code with command." Narrator, calm but powerful. Inside the F-22 cockpit, both pilots looked at each other, stunned. That call sign, Shadowcall, wasn't public. It belonged to a classified communications officer from an elite U.S. Air Force program. A program so secret, most pilots had only heard rumors. One of the F-22 pilots radioed HQ immediately. "Command, we're being hailed by a unit identifying as Shadowcall. Verification requested." There was silence. Then the reply. "Copy, Raptor 1. Verification confirmed. Stand down immediately. Maintain escort. Do not question the signal." Music shifts to emotional orchestral tone. Narrator. And just like that, 2 of the most advanced fighter jets in the world went from intercept mode to escort formation, protecting the passenger jet and the girl in seat 12F. The pilots in the cockpit were speechless. "Who is she?" whispered Sarah. The captain said nothing, just looked out the window at the Raptors flying alongside them. Narrator, soft, emotional. An hour later, when the flight landed, The runway was surrounded by military vehicles. No panic, no alarms, just quiet precision. As the passengers disembarked, 2 uniformed Air Force officers entered. They stopped at row 12. One of them looked directly at the girl. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "we're here to escort you." Everyone nearby froze. "Ma'am?" Sarah whispered. "She's just a kid." But when the girl stood up, her posture was perfect. Her steps confident. She handed Sarah her notebook. Inside, it wasn't homework. It was a cipher pad, military-grade encryption, scribbled in patterns and numbers. Background, slow piano melody. Narrator, outside. The F-22 pilots stood by their aircraft, helmets off, and when the girl walked down the stairs, flanked by officers, they snapped to attention. One of them saluted. "Welcome home, Shadowcall." She returned the salute, calm and composed. Then she smiled, the first real smile of the day. "Thank you, Captain. It's good to be back." Narrator, reporters never got the full story. The airline called it a navigation anomaly. The Air Force called it routine training. But the truth was buried under layers of clearance and silence. What was known was this: she wasn't just a kid, she was the youngest cryptologic prodigy ever recruited by the Air Force's Cyber Operations Command. At only 15, she'd cracked an encrypted transmission that had saved an entire squadron overseas. Her call sign, Shadowcall, was given to her by the very pilots she'd once helped rescue. Music swells, cinematic strings, narrator, emotional close. Seat 12F became more than just a number on a plane that day. It was the seat where a nation's secret guardian once sat, quietly, unnoticed until the world remembered her name. And as the jet engines cooled and the wind swept across the tarmac, one of the F-22 pilots turned to his wingman and said softly, "She may look like a kid, but when Shadowcall speaks, the sky listens." Soft fade-out emotional music ending, narrator, final line, "Because heroes don't always wear uniforms or sit in cockpits. Sometimes they're just a kid in seat 12F, carrying a call sign that makes even fighter pilots stand at attention." The news never covered what happened next. The headlines stopped at the runway, but stories like hers never end at the runway. They just take off again, higher and quieter. Because that girl, the one everyone thought was just a passenger in seat 12F, was about to face a mission that would decide the safety of thousands. Narrator. 48 hours after the flight landed, she sat inside a secure Air Force facility in Virginia. The room was small, no windows, no clocks, no sense of time. Across the table sat Colonel Reeves, a man known for interrogating spies, not kids. He studied her quietly. "So, you're the one they call Shadowcall?" The girl nodded. "Yes, sir." Reeves leaned back. "You're 15. 16 next week," he smirked. "And you just ordered my best F-22 pilots to stand down mid-flight." She met his eyes. Calm, steady. "They would have shot down a civilian plane if I hadn't." Reeves went silent. Then, he pushed a file across the table. "Do you know why we called you in?" She opened the file. Inside were satellite images, encrypted data logs, and a name. Project Wintervale. Her face changed. "I thought that was shut down." Reeves replied quietly. "It was. Until 3 days ago." The colonel pressed a button. A screen flickered to life, showing garbled digital noise. "This was intercepted by our signals team yesterday," he said. "We can't decode it, but the source matches one of your old ciphers." She frowned. "My cipher?" Reeves nodded. "Only 6 people in the world ever used that encryption pattern. 5 of them are in this building. The 6th is you." The girl leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Show me the rest of the transmission." As the data scrolled, she suddenly froze. Hidden in the stream of code was a pattern only she would recognize. A pattern spelling out one word, Raven. Her breath caught. "Sir, this isn't just data. It's a distress signal." Reeves frowned. "From who?" she whispered. "From Agent Raven, my mentor." Narrator. Raven, the one who trained her. The woman who discovered her talent when she was only 11, solving encryption puzzles online for fun, until one of them happened to belong to the Pentagon. Raven had taken her under protection, turned her from a gifted hacker into a disciplined operator. But Raven had gone missing a year ago during a Black Ops mission overseas, declared KIA. And now, this message, hidden in her own encryption code, meant Raven was alive. The colonel leaned forward. We traced the signal to an airfield in Eastern Europe, but the encryption keeps shifting every 3 hours. We can't hold a lock. She closed her notebook. Then you'll need me there. Reeves blinked. You're a civilian asset, not active military. She met his eyes. With respect, sir, I'm the only one who can read what she's saying. Scene 4. The Missio 12 hours later, under the cover of darkness, a C-17 transport jet took off from Andrews Air Force Base. Aboard were 6 operatives, and one teenage girl with a call sign that made every soldier salute, Shadowcall. As the aircraft climbed, she sat quietly, laptop open, decoding the shifting signal in real time. Her screen flashed symbols, numbers, then words. Eagle compromised. Coordinates: 54° Gran, 19°. She looked up. She's alive. But she's not alone. Narrator. They landed in Poland before dawn. Cold wind, empty hangars, and somewhere out there, a woman sending encrypted SOS signals through military frequencies. The team moved fast. Thermal scanners, drones, no lights. But within minutes, Shadowcall's headset came alive again. Incoming ping. Wait, this isn't her code, it's mimicking her frequency. The squad froze. She whispered, "It's a trap." And before she could say another word, boom, an explosion tore through the far hangar. Narrator. The shockwave knocked her down. Dust, heat, static in her ears. She could hear shouts, soldiers scrambling for cover. But through the chaos, another voice came through her earpiece. A voice she hadn't heard in over a year. Shadowcall. If you're hearing this, don't come for me. They're listening. Her heart stopped. Raven, they're using me to find you. It's not about me. It's about you. Narrator. Deep tone. Suddenly, it all made sense. The intercepted signal, the fake airspace deviation that led to the F-22 encounter. None of it was coincidence. Someone had been tracking her. Her cipher, her code, her mind. She wasn't bait. She was the target. She looked at the colonel, his earpiece crackling. Sir, we've been compromised. The leak's internal. He froze. I'm saying someone in command wants me gone. Narrator. Back at the base, chaos erupted. Communications jammed. Rogue signals hijacked drones mid-flight. It was cyber warfare, but it felt like magic. And in the middle of it all, Shadowcall sat before her terminal, fingers flying over the keys. Trace the origin, Reeves shouted. I'm trying, she said. Wait, no. Her eyes widened. It's coming from our own servers. The colonel's face went pale. Someone inside the Pentagon had sold her encryption algorithm, and now it was being used to unlock defense networks worldwide. Narrator. Emotional, soft. The colonel slammed his hand on the table. We can't stop it, we'll have to pull the plug. Full system shut down. She shook her head. If you shut down, you'll lose control permanently. Reeves. Then, what do you suggest? She looked at him, tears in her eyes, but her voice steady. Let me connect directly. I can rewrite the core code. Reeves hesitated. That'll expose you. Once you connect, they'll have your biometric ID. I know, she said softly. But they already do. And before he could stop her, she plugged in her device. Scene 9. The battle in the code. Narrator. On the screen, a storm of data. Firewalls clashing like lightning. Lines of code like soldiers on a battlefield. For every move she made, the enemy countered faster. It was no ordinary hacker. This was a full AI network built from her own stolen designs. She whispered, "You learned from me." Then clenched her jaw. "But you don't feel like me." She shifted the algorithm manually, embedding emotion into code, turning logic into something unpredictable. And for a moment, the network hesitated, almost as if it felt fear. Then she struck. A single command sequence that collapsed the AI's architecture in under 5 seconds. The screen went dark. Narrator, soft, emotional. When the system stabilized, Reeves walked in, exhausted, eyes heavy. "It's over," he said quietly. "You saved us." But she didn't look relieved. She was staring at a message blinking on her terminal. "Thank you, Shadowcall." A single tear rolled down her cheek. Her mentor had sacrificed her final signal to give Shadowcall the access she needed. Reeves placed a hand on her shoulder. "She'd be proud of you." She smiled faintly. "No, sir," she'd say. "Next time, encrypt faster." They both laughed quietly. Narrator. Weeks later, she returned home. No medals, no ceremonies, just silence, and the memory of a voice that guided her through chaos. She sat once again on a commercial flight, this time in seat 12F, looking out at the clouds. No one knew who she was, and she liked it that way. The flight attendant passed by. "Homework again?" she asked kindly. The girl smiled. "Something like that." Narrator, final tone. Sometimes heroes don't disappear. They just fade into the quiet corners of the world, waiting for the next signal, the next code, the next moment when the world forgets who keeps it safe. Because in the shadows of every great nation, there's always someone watching, listening, protecting, unseen. And if you ever look out your window seat and see 2 F-22s escorting your plane, just remember, you might be flying with Shadowcall.